Hi, good afternoon. This is Dr. Ange Mack coming to you 1 January 2026. Welcome to this fabulous new year where we're all going to be healthy and thriving and just supporting one another. I'm glad you're here with me today because we're going to start with this video as my first of many with the intent to help educate and provide information to the women and the men that support us around perimenopause and menopause symptoms. I really put it into two groups: perimenopause, when your hormones start to decline as a woman, and postmenopause, after you've stopped having a period. It's been 12 months since your last period. So those are the kind of the two big areas: perimenopause, prior to having your period, and then postmenopause, and what can go on and happen to you during these times. Let me tell you, for me, it was no joke. And if you haven't seen my previous videos where I tell my story and the 25 plus symptoms and conditions that I had associated with hormone depletion, please take a moment, listen to it when you're driving around. They're on YouTube. You can find them right before this one. The impression I want to make with these videos and the intent behind them is to give women the education and information and facts they need to understand how to take care of their own health. Because I think we've been scared to really look at hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I think we've been really scared to look at that until just recently. It's been blowing up in the past 3 years since I've had my scare around ALS and other things that were not actually happening to me. I've been doing deep dives into all the different areas of health and medicine that have impacted me. And now I'm sharing this with you, and I'm starting with your bones. So bones are a critical, obvious, foundational part of your body that many of us may not pay a lot of attention to if we're not thinking about it. But what I want to do with these videos is define one issue or symptom or problem. Sometimes it's a few of them combined into one, or one particular organ system, but I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm trying to break it down so it's easy to understand. And then after I define this symptom, to describe why it's important to you and your future self. And I think that's what we all need to come back to. I don't know how old you are, but I know that I'm in my 50s and I want to live healthy and strong and happy, like way into my 90s and until I die. That's the goal. So I know I had to make some changes. Even though I thought I was doing everything right, I was not. And I wasn't paying attention to my bones. And this is where I want to help you and your friends and anyone else that can get this information, because I really want to delineate how to get what you want and what you need. And this includes a lifestyle component, a health provider component, labs and scans potentially, and treatments and supplements potentially. I'll talk a lot about hormone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I'll talk a lot. That's one of the components. That's one of the ones that help me in many different ways. And I'm going to talk about that around bone density and other things that we can do. So breaking bones, what we don't want to have happen. This is a femur bone. This is the big bone in your upper thigh, and it can break on people. And I'm going to be giving some facts and statistics out there as to why 1 in 2 women after the age of 50 will break a bone. And that is just not fair to women, I don't think. And it doesn't have to be that way. And that's what I'm here to tell you. It doesn't have to be that way. So stick with me. Let's look through this information and see what we can do. So the first thing that I want every woman from, I would say, 20 on up to get on their calendar this year is a DEXA scan. Duel Energy Xray. Very low X-ray coming out. It takes a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. This is me. I am modeling a DEXA scan. And what this gives you is information on your bone density. And if you get a body comp DEXA, which I highly recommend above anything else that you could possibly do to really show you where you are with your bones, with your fat, with your lean muscle, how you hold this lean muscle and fat on your body, where you hold it, then what you can do about it once you get this information. So get a DEXA scan this year. And I'm going to get into why this is so important, but I will say, make a note, check that box and get a DEXA. With a DEXA scan, and I'm reading from my slides here, so I am going to put my glasses on. I'm hoping there's not too much of a glare. But this Duel Energy Xray, the DEXA, as you might have heard, measures your bone density, and you'll get a Z-score and a T-score coming back with that. The T-score is what compares you to a young, healthy adult, and the Z-score is what compares you to other women your age. So when you get these done and you see these scores, you can really kind of drill down into what's normal for your range and look at those T-scores and those Z-scores. Now, the important figures here, if you look at the bottom of this, it talks about T-scores negative 2.5 or greater, negative 2.5, negative 2.7, negative 3. When you get into those negative 2.5s and greater, that's when you have osteoporosis. And that's not a good thing. And that's what I had. That's what I had, past tense. 3 years ago, I was given my first DEXA. And I have no idea why they don't give DEXAs earlier. And that's one of my biggest pushes. And I'm going to talk to you and share with you how to get your DEXA scan now and get it paid for under insurance. So stick with me because that's going to be really important. But you want to know what your bone density is because you want to be able to do something about that. Why bone loss accelerates in menopause? Well, if you listen to my other videos or if you've been kind of delving into this perimenopause, estrogen, progesterone to testosterone loss space, you will know that there are estrogen receptors on all the organ systems of your body to include your bones. And when your estrogen starts to drop, these receptors, these estrogen receptors, no longer can do the work around the bones or around the heart or around your brain, wherever these receptors are, and they are everywhere, things start to decline. And in your bone, there's a cycle going on. Your bones are always breaking down and building up and breaking down and building up. And that's their natural cycle. You have osteoclasts, which are the breaking down cells, and they resorb and they're old and they're damaged. They're breaking down and they're getting out of your system. And then you have the osteoblasts that are building new bones by laying down fresh collagen and fresh minerals. You got calcium and phosphorus, all those good things that mineralize your bones. And you want to keep this cycle going. And I'm going to describe some really great things that we can do naturally to keep this bone breaking down, building up, going, because that's the natural process. Estrogen is a major regulator of this process. When estrogen declines sharply during perimenopause and menopause, that's when we get up to 20% of the lifetime bone loss. It occurs between 5 and 7 years surrounding menopause. 20% of your bone loss. Boom. As soon as your estrogen goes down, your bones start to decrease. I don't care who you are. This is what happens. And this is why it's so important for us to get a DEXA scan and to find out if we have osteoporosis. Hopefully we don't. Or osteopenia, getting down to that negative 1.5 to negative 2.5, I believe, is the osteopenic range. But if you're anything under straight out 1, then we need to start doing something about helping your bones become more dense and more healthy again. So again, this is a nice picture description from the Cleveland Clinic that shows the bone cycle. It's a head of a femur bone there. I'm going to get used to being able to point. I'm not sure if my cursor is even showing up right now, but you have the osteoblasts that form new bones and the osteoclasts, which is your old bones breaking down, and we want to keep that cycle going. This is a fabulous chart. This shows you what your bone density goes through when you start, let's say it looks like about age 30. Age 30 for women is the red line. Age 30 is about the peak of your bone density. It's when you are the strongest. And then as your estrogen starts declining and your testosterone starts declining, so does your bone density and your bone health. And you can see that precipitous drop. And there, that menopause, around age 50-ish, when you stop having your period, that time between like 40, 55 or so, you again lose 20% of your bone. And this is an enormous amount. I'm going to play a video of what it looks like to get a DEXA scan done. You're not in a tube, you're not in a cave, you're not locked in. This is my beautiful model, my husband Craig, who is a great sport. I got him a DEXA scan, a body comp DEXA scan for Christmas. He always loves my Christmas gifts. And again, I'm going to show this one more time. You can see the x-rays up above. I'm sitting there in the room, obviously looking at this. It's a very low level x-ray. And you just it kind of shifts down over your whole body, and you get a great chart and readout of, what you see. Some symptoms of bone loss, let's say you haven't had a DEXA, you can look for things like broken bones. Do you fracture a lot? Do you break things a lot? Do you have a loss in your height? I know we can look at like older people and our parents, and we'll notice they're starting to get a little shorter, they're starting to shrink, and that's from the vertebrae getting less dense and less dense, and the cartilage getting dense, and as you age, these things shrink. Now I'm going to share my DEXA information. I think this is critical. I'm going to be sharing a lot, and I've shared a lot of my personal medical information and journey because it is so important to me to let you know what you can do to avoid what happened to me. So I got my first DEXA scan when I was, I think, 54, 55, like right in there. I had just gone through menopause. They're like, oh, you're through menopause, let's give you that DEXA. And my DEXA came back and it said, I had osteoporosis. Okay, I'm like, what? I lift weights, I jog sometimes, I do jumping jacks, I do all these things to keep my bones strong. I eat calcium, vitamin D, I was taking the supplements. It's like, what in the heck? How can I have? And if you look down on here, it says negative 2.5. I had osteoporosis in my femur, in my head of my femur, or I guess it's called the neck. So, you can imagine, I was astounded. I'm like, there is no way I have osteoporosis. I did not get a DEXA done again to verify this, but what I did do is I took a step back and tried to figure out what I needed for me. And I was having many other symptoms, and I go into all of the other disease conditions and symptoms I started getting into 2022, into 2023. There are just horrific spasms and muscle loss and dry eye and a non-existing libido, and the list goes on and on. But this one was a true shocker because I felt good. I did not feel like my bones were fragile or on the verge of fracture. I felt really awesome. And when I got this DEXA scan back for the first time and saw what these T-scores were, and that I was basically gonna be breaking bones here, my fragility risk was higher and higher with the higher T and Z scores, I knew I had to do something about it. If you look at the very bottom, it says femur, left femoral neck. My bone density is negative 2.5. That was in 2024, this last one. In less than 10 months later, it went from negative 2.5 osteoporosis to negative 1.9. And my other bones got better as well. In those 10 months, I got on hormone replacement therapy, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. I started doing more plyometrics, jumping jacks, things that put some pressure on my bones, some impacts. Weightlifting, jumping jacks, oh my gosh, you name it. I was working in all kinds of different jumps and squats and things. And get this, I have some serious knee issues, so I was really working around trying not to inflame my knees. But the DEXA and getting this information, and then just drowning myself in research and certified, qualified physicians and research information, I learned what I needed to do to turn it around. And that's what I want you to know too. If you get a DEXA and you're like, okay, now what? Now I have very low density, because this is what happens naturally in women. There's not a lot we can do about it. You may be like that 1% where you have great genes, and you don't have as bad as bone density as others may have, but that's not the norm, and I hope that is right for you. But you won't know unless you get a DEXA, because there are no signs. Nothing told me that my bones were failing me. So this screen, if you can look at it, if you can see it, I can't blow it up anymore here, but if you want to take a screenshot and blow it up, this is what a DEXA body composition. And I will say, normally if you go in and you get your doctor to order a DEXA scan for you, it's usually just the bone. But if you can ask for a body comp DEXA, because DEXA scan machines can look at your bones and your fat and your muscles, that is the gold standard for really understanding how much fat you have on your body, how much muscle, lean mass you have on your body, and how that's distributed. And I love this. I loved getting this done. I'll tell you why. One, because I really wanted to know what my fat percentage was actually. I have a home impedance smart scale, where you get on and it tells you your fat and your lean mass. And I will say, I'm going to do a whole other video on this. Those scales are good for trends. The muscle and lean mass is not accurate. And I learned that a long time ago, but there wasn't anything I could do about it until I got this done, the bone composition DEXA. And this told me that I wasn't at 26% body fat, which is what my impedance scale was telling me. That's upstairs in the bathroom. I was actually at 18 point something percent body fat. And I was like, that makes me feel so much better, a whole lot better. Both of those things combined, much more. Very good. So these are the details that you get, and it compares you to the rest of the population. In addition, I found out that I knew I had some nerve and muscle injuries on my left side, and it was impacting my muscles on my quads and my arms. And this showed me exactly what was going on. And I deviate a little bit from the bone piece somewhat to focus on the mass. And shoot, my fat head is covering up. It's not really a fat head. My head is covering up some of the stats I wanted you to see here. I need to see if I can move this camera angle at some point. Bottom line, on my left side, my lean mass on my thigh was it was 1.6, almost 1.5 pounds less muscle on my left thigh, my left quad, my left hamstring, which is clinically significant. There were some things going on. I knew I had some issues on my left side. I've had some back issues and some nerve problems and neuromuscular issues throughout this whole 3, 4, 5 years, stuff going on with me, but I had no idea. It was 1.5 pounds, 1.6 pounds less. So what do you do when you find out that you have an imbalance? Some imbalance is perfectly normal, okay, but if it gets that much only on one side or one arm or one leg, we need to look at how to build that up and reconnect those neuromuscular pathways. So this just gave me more information on how to do this better. 15 to 22% women die within 1 year after getting a hip fracture. Why? Why does this happen? First of all, why are 1 in 2 women getting a hip fracture or a fracture due to osteoporosis? Why? Because we lose the estrogen and the testosterone, and our body and our bones are not rebuilding like they need to. Doesn't matter how much calcium and vitamin D, MK7, potassium that you're taking. If you don't have those impact exercises and you don't have that estrogen to help maintain the healthy bone cycle, you are going to lose bone density. That's just what happens. And that's why I'm a huge proponent of hormone replacement therapy. And I will tell you firsthand, it worked for me. In 10 months, I saw an improvement, a clinical significant improvement. And you can too if you're in osteopenia or you're starting to see that downward trend in your bone density. So the incidence of hip fractures doubles soon after menopause, again, because we lose the menopause. And 1 in 2 women, ladies, I don't want to be looking at the 1 and 2 over here and seeing women with broken wrists and ankles and legs and hips. We can prevent this now. And how do you do this? This is the how-to part of my videos. I can tell you all about what's going on, and now we have to do something about it, right? And I hope you have a journal. I hope you have something that you're writing on, a journal or a notes. I use my notes a lot, and I use ChatGPT a lot, which helps me organize, what I'm doing to take care of me. And if you're in your 40s, you are most likely losing estrogen and bone right now, and we need to prevent it. So some of the things that you can look at if you're wondering if this is going to be more of a risk and issue for you, is you can look at your family history. How does your mom and your aunts look? Do they have osteoporosis? Are they breaking bones? Are they hunched over? Are they shrinking? You can also personally look at your vitamin D levels. Always get those checked. It's very cheap lab. If you smoke or drink a lot, not good. Try to give it up. Do whatever you can to give up the smoking and the drinking. I've pretty much given up alcohol. I will have a glass of wine with food. New Year's Eve, I had some last night with my filet mignon. It was delicious, and I do like it, but I also know it's horrible for my body and it's horrible for my brain. So, everything in moderation, but I've really, for the most part, eliminated alcohol because I know too much. Once you know too much, it's like, is it really worth it? I love club soda and lime. I love my mushroom cocktails at night. It sounds gross, but they're really tasty. Trip is a brand that I use. Kind of helps you mellow out. So I've done other things. Instead of a cocktail and alcohol, I've shifted. And I hope you can look at this and figure out what's best for you. If you have too low of protein, again, your protein goals, ladies, your protein goals is 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass goal. So if you don't know what that means, it is another video. It's something I'll do. You can look it up. You can even ask ChatGPT and say, hey, I want to lose fat, not lean muscle. I'm whatever you are. Let's say you're 150 and you're this percentage of fat because you got your bone DEXA comp scan, your body comp DEXA scan. So you know these figures, right? And you can put all that into ChatGPT and say, get me on a diet so I am high energy, don't lose bone or muscle, lose fat. And they'll tell you 1 pound per pound of lean body mass. And it's probably around 120 or 130 grams. So lots of protein, good protein. If you're sedentary, you got to get up. You got to get up. You got to get up. You got to move. You got to try to do some jumping jacks. You have to try to get to the gym or at least get some weights. You can do push-ups at home. You can do squats at home. You can find some things that have some weight to them at home. There are lots of fun workarounds if you don't have a gym nearby. I love the bands. They're super light and they work really great, and they give you tension both on the eccentric and the, what's the other word? Help me out. Eccentric, isometric. I'll have to look that one up again. Anyway, you got to move and you got to get some resistance on those bones. And this is another thing I didn't know, medications with steroids in them, asthma medication that has steroid medications. If you have an autoimmune condition that requires steroids, or you've had bouts of steroids throughout your life, this is really harsh on your bones and the ability for your bones to stay strong and not become weak and fragile. That's what we're trying to avoid. So evidence-based prevention and treatment. Hormone therapy is out there as FDA approved treatment, estrogen, for bone loss. It does say it's not the primary treatment, but it is an approved treatment. And I went straight there. My doctors wanted me on the bisphosphonates. And I have a slide about bisphosphonates. They will get your bone density higher. There's no doubt about that. And that's why the doctors want to use them. They want your bone density to get higher, but there are some extreme side effects, and there are some also potential benefits of doing things differently, potentially, than getting on these very harsh pharmaceuticals. So HRT reduces bone loss and lowers fracture risk by restoring estrogen levels, slowing down bone resorptions, like the bone breakdown, and improving bone microarchitecture and mineralization. So, again, speaking from my own personal experience, um, HRT has worked wonders on me, that and also lifestyle. I had to make sure I was getting enough protein and I was doing a few more jumping jacks. This little bit of information on this slide angers and frustrates me with the medical system, I think, more than anything in the world. And this issue is ubiquitous with regards to how they treat women, how they don't treat women, and how they're not researching what's going on with regards to all of these hormones dropping off and what it does to every single organ system in your body. We're talking about bones. The average age for a paid DEXA scan is 65 years old. How many years past menopause, past that time where we've lost already 20% of our bone and it's still going downhill? How much time has to go by to where we're breaking and having fractures and shrinking and all of these other issues? And we're just talking about bone. I'm not talking about all the other organ problems you can have not being on hormone replacement therapy. But 65 is when they're paid for. But at least the VA for me got me, a year after menopause. They're like, let's see what your bones are doing. And they were osteoporotic. It's like, why didn't I get this 10, 20 years ago? Why didn't I get a baseline when I was in my 20s? Because in my 20s, I was amenorrheic. I was training for marathons. I wasn't having my period. I was probably putting my bones at risk in my 20s. That's why I really would love, I don't care how old you are, 20 and over, and maybe younger if you're a very high athlete and you're very athletic, get the DEXA scan, know where you are. And then about every 5 years ago, look at that, especially if you have issues with not having a period when you're younger, or if you've had complicated pregnancies or other issues with infertility. All of these are hormone issues, and all of these things can potentially impact your bone. So please get the DEXA, because my younger me and now my older me is really pissed because I could have probably prevented this steady decline. Now, I am getting my bones back, so I'm happy about that, but why not just prevent it? Integrative medicine, what I do, it's all about prevention, behavioral lifestyle changes, what you can do now to stay healthy so you don't have to potentially get on harmful pharmaceuticals. Now, I will say you will still lose your hormones, and that's a personal decision if you want to get on them. I'm just telling you what's happened for me and thousands of other women who have been on hormone replacement therapy. So there's my soapbox for that. I have so many soapboxes. Quickly, the risks of bisphosphonates, other names known as alendronate, zoldronic acid, other names that I don't want to try to pronounce right now. So what these do and why your bones get denser after you start taking the bisphosphonates is it stops the breakdown of your bones. So your bones are just getting those osteoclasts. They're building up. They're getting stronger. They're getting stronger. They're getting stronger. But that natural process is stopped. They cannot break down. And what they have found out is after about 5 years, yes, your bone density gets stronger, but then you're at, again, risk for fracture. After about 5 years, 10 years, you're again at risk for fracture. And what is a fracture? That's a fracture. That's a femur fracture you're at risk for if you get on these bisphosphonates, potentially. So we don't necessarily want to get on a bisphosphonates if it's not critical, I don't think. If you're a woman and your bone density is getting lower, you can opt for HRT or BHRT, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. You could try that first and continue the natural cycle of breakdown and buildup in your bones and see if after a year you're better. I was better after 10 months. I have no desire to get on anything that's going to stop a natural cycle in my body, especially the bones. The bones, the muscles around them, I mean, that's key to keeping us moving and, being able to do the things that we love to do. I don't want to be 70, 80, 90 and not be able to get up from my chair and play with my grandkids and hike. I want to do that in my 90s. These are my goals. I mean, we live almost half our lives post-menopause. Why do we, women that make up more than 50% of the population, why do we want to be dismissed, ignored, not treated, or treated with an antidepressant or a bisphosphonate or a statin when really all we need is something around replacing the hormones that we've lost? So finally, I'll end this almost by talking about getting your DEXA. Now, I'm going to discuss some things. I'm going to try to do this with every educational video I give you. Every bit of information is what you can tell your doctor so you can get these scans, these tests, these labs, because most doctors aren't trained on this information. They just aren't. They're looking at old guidelines, a lot of them, or maybe even new guidelines that don't reflect the current research, and we have to bring that to them. So if you're any age and you want a DEXA and you feel your insurance should pay for it, I feel your insurance should pay for it at any age, then you need to tell your doctor your risk factors. You need to tell them about your family history. If your mom has osteoporosis, if she's broken multiple bones, if you've broken a bone, if you've gone through menopause early, like 45 and early, if you've already been through menopause, you're at higher risk for osteoporosis and low bone density. If you have a very low body weight, if you tend to be getting shorter is another thing. And again, your fracture history. I want to make sure I get them all. So if you go to your doctor and they're like, oh, we can't authorize a DEXA, you can go into these risk factors. I have risk factors, doctor. And this is why it's important that I get a DEXA now, because I need to know my baseline now. And if you have issues with your doctor, I'm here. I'm your number one advocate and educator. I will help you figure out how to get this DEXA. And if for whatever reason you don't feel like doing those battles, pay $100. Go up the road. If you're in Virginia, go to Leesburg, go to the National Sports Institute of Medicine, I believe the name of it is, and I'll put this in my show notes, and get a body comp DEXA, which is more than your bones. It'll give you a lot more information. I'm going to do a whole other thing on body comp and impedance scales and other ways that you can get your fat and bones measured, and what's the gold standard and how to figure out what you need to know to track yourself. So what you can do right now, get the labs. That's a whole nother class. Get a DEXA scan first. Start lifting those weights. Ladies, you got to do it. You just make it fun. Get a girlfriend. Get a trainer. Get some awesome music that you can jam to when you're lifting the weights. Figure out a way to work it into your schedule. It doesn't matter if you go to the gym or you're doing it at home. Start doing this and you're going to start feeling better, and you're going to start looking better and just feeling strong in your body. Your grip strength will get stronger. You'll be able to open those jars for your husband again. So all of those things be awesome. Increase your protein. It's you got to look at it. You got to see what's going on in your body. I guarantee you, I thought I was, with protein shakes and lean meats and all kinds of things, I was still not even breaking 100 grams of protein. It is a thoughtful, intentional effort that I have to do now because I'm worth it. I'm gonna track this stuff until I know exactly what I need. And when I get to that point where I feel good day to day, that I don't need to track things and monitor, then I won't. But for now, I'm still in healing and recovery. I'm probably about 75% better than I was 3 years ago, but that's 25% I'm still working on. And we want you not to get to the point where you're at 30% of your healthiest self. We want to catch that now. So start now. Start lifting some weights. Look at optimizing your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone if it's appropriate for you and it's safe. And if you're not sure, it's one of the things I do. I give a free consult. Get on my schedule. We'll talk about your specific situation. Tell me all the things. And then we can decide, what may be best for you. And we can talk to your doctor about how to get you what you need. And that could be hormones and that could be something else. But you need to be educated and informed, and you need to advocate for yourself because you're the only one who can do this for yourself. I mean, I can help you, obviously. That's why I'm here. But in the end, we have to do this for ourselves, and we have to support one another in this female community and not be dismissed and ignored by our doctors any longer, because it could kill you. You gotta step up for yourself and reduce alcohol, smoking, and sedentary time. My goals overall is to offer personalized education and assistance and consultation and advocation. So if you need help, you know where to reach me. Go to my website, drangemack.com. Find me on Facebook. I'm always posting these latest episodes on Facebook and YouTube and Insta. They kind of all play off one another. So if you want to look for a particular topic, again, I have 25 topics around perimenopause and menopause that I'm going to be giving a class like this on. And they're going to talk to everything from my dry eyes and low libido to my autoimmune condition, my misdiagnosis of ALS, and everything in between. So whatever syndromes and issues that I didn't have, those will come on after the 25 to 30. Like I didn't really have hot flashes. It didn't really affect me. So, they impact a lot of other women. I'm going to talk about all my stuff first, unless, of course, I have a big outcry of somebody wanting more information sooner. DEXA was high on my list because it's an easy understanding. It's a maybe not so easy fix, but we can do something about it. So get in touch and ask me all your questions. If you like this, please just hit like, and more than anything, share it with other people that you know is going to benefit from this information. We have to get it out there. And with that, much love. Take care of you. Hit the gym, hit the weights, and I will see you very soon. This is again 1 January 2026, and thanks for sharing your time with me.